Can we show you how to break into the luxury market? For most wedding photographers and filmmakers, the business side of running a business doesn't come naturally, but we learned 3 crucial lessons that have led us to doubling and tripling our prices, booking weddings in the luxury market consistently over $10,000 each, allowing us to earn more money while working half the amount that we used to. And now we want to share those lessons with you in our upcoming live 3-day free workshop. We can't wait to share all the tips, the strategies, and the practices that have generated hundreds of thousands of dollars of revenue. And here's the best part. It's going to work no matter what stage of business you're in. So you can register now at thelevelupco.com/workshop, and we're going to be cheering to your success in no time. Well, hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me for another great conversation on the Level Up podcast. I am joined today with Erin Taylor with Bustle Events, who is just an incredible planner and designer in the Bay Area and Napa. That's where her home base is, but she produces beautiful events all over the country. We had an opportunity to work with Erin 11 years ago, and we had a chance to talk a little bit about that. She started Bustle Events in 2009. After getting let go from her corporate job, she kind of started to scramble, decided to hop into planning weddings and events, and wow, has she just really made a mark on this industry. There's some really great actionable steps on this one on ways to gain the attention from planners who maybe have never worked with you before. A lot of times we hear from you guys, well, how can I show a planner that I'm going to be a really great creative partner without having the opportunity to have been brought on for that wedding or be considered for that wedding? And she talks about what are the best ways to go about that. We also talked about really great elements of the story that's brought into place in the luxury market and how a photographer or a filmmaker can take those blinders off and capture those events in a way that serves the overall story of the event while not just relying on the bride or the groom or the client themselves. So I hope that you guys love this one. Taylor is vacationing this week, so it's just going to be me and Erin, but I know that you're going to really walk away mind blown and really inspired.
This is the Level Up Podcast. I'm Taylor Petrinovich.
And I'm Kelly Gilster of 618 Studios.
And we are on a mission to help wedding filmmakers and photographers level up their businesses so you can make more and work less.
We want to help you confidently take your business from mainstream to luxury, and it all starts right here. Erin, thank you so much for coming on the podcast this week. I'm so excited to talk with you. We've had, years of working together, and I'm excited for our listeners to hear from you. How are you?
I'm good. We just wrapped a wedding this weekend, so still in recovery mode, but good.
Oh my gosh, that wedding hangover is so real, right? How many days does it take you now to come back from a wedding?
Oh gosh, it depends on the wedding, but funny enough, I looked at my Apple Watch from the night before on Sunday and it said I stood for 17 straight hours. So it felt like 17, but you know how normally your watch is like off and you feel like you did more than it said? This was the first time I was like, oh yeah, it was definitely 17 hours.
Gosh, wedding days are just so next level. We walk how many steps were you logging during that one?
35,000.
Oh,
It was a very
goodness.
spread out property.
Wow. Okay, so for listeners that don't know about your company, Bustle Events, tell us a little bit about where you're based, the types of clients you serve, how many events you take on per year. Kind of paint that picture for them so they are more acquainted with yourself and your brand.
Yeah, so I started Bustle Events 15 years ago, and we really work all over. We do a lot of destination weddings as well as we're based in Napa Valley, so we do quite a bit of Napa Valley and like the larger San Francisco Bay Area. And then we travel all over. We do no more than 6 weddings every year. So each client really has our full attention, and that way we can really work on the larger scale production style weddings.
Amazing. So 6 events a year. You're really doing full service and design, I'm assuming. Yes.
Yeah, we don't offer day of or month of or partial planning. I did a long time ago, and what I found is we end up doing it all anyway, and it's better to have full control over the wedding, and that way we can ensure that nothing goes wrong.
Yeah. I think, we all start at the same starting line. A lot of planners start off with that month of coordination, even day of. Let's like rewind the clock back 15 years. So you started 1 year before we did. We started in 2010. So you were in 2009. We're kind of in the midst of a recession then. Um,
Yes.
did people think you were absolutely insane for starting a business in a recession, or like how did this all come to fruition?
That is a great question. I don't often get asked, but it's interesting how I started. So I actually used to work in corporate event planning for a uh, large telecommunications company. And I was pregnant and gave birth to my daughter. And then when I was going to come back from maternity leave, they laid me off, which I know is highly illegal, but
Oh no.
somebody had already been trained. I had already trained somebody on my job so that I could go on maternity leave. So they were laying off a lot of people, and I was just another one of them. And so I had always really wanted to do weddings. I loved the connection, the love. It just was so much more personal than, especially back then, corporate events. They were much more like, these are our colors, you stay within this box. And so I just thought now is a great time to start my own. And so I bootstrapped it and set up a website and began really like networking and putting myself out there. And that's really how it got started. So it was a blessing in disguise that I got laid off, because it really pushed me to do what I had always wanted to do. But it was very scary.
Yeah, I mean, that's so scary. And sometimes like the rug just gets pulled out from under you and you just have to kind of like scramble and make it work. And that is kind of a blessing in disguise. There are people I think that are probably still listening that are um doing weddings, but they're also, in a full-time job themselves and they don't know yet when to make that leap. And sometimes you get to make that leap on your own, at your own time, but then sometimes the leap has to happen when it was taken from you, right? Kind of like in your
Yeah,
situation. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And I think had it not happened, I'd like to say that I would have just done it on my own, but I don't know. I mean, I was newly married, I just had a baby. So it was, once the security was taken away and you're forced to make it work, I think that's when you kind of get this energy and adrenaline that, I don't want to go back to working for somebody. I really want to do my own thing.
Yeah. So you said, you kind of bootstrapped a website. I'm sure we've all done that. I myself definitely did that. And then you started networking. What did that networking look like in those early years to bring awareness? Were you kind of starting with friends' weddings or past coworkers' weddings, or how was that like? Where did you get your first events?
Yeah, so some of them were friends' weddings. Another thing I did, and like talk about really stepping outside of your comfort zone, I started going to all of the networking events alone, showing up, not knowing a single person. And the wedding
Yeah.
industry is super small and everybody knows everybody. And I was like the one person in the room who knew nobody. And I just would introduce myself and find my way in. Another thing that was really big back then was blogging.
Yeah.
And so I would actually go to I also had a blog, like a wedding blog. And so I would also go to bloggers networking. So fashion bloggers, gosh, what else? There was like home interior blogging.
Yeah.
And I would go to their things. So I was the only wedding related person in the room. And I got to know quite a few of them who were of the age that they were getting married soon, or they could feature some of my events or dinner parties or different things that I had done could be featured in a different place so that I wasn't being featured with just all the other wedding stuff, but that in a world of um, fashion or home decor or other things like that, I would be featured as like the only wedding dinner party kind of situation. And so I ended up doing a lot of collaborations with those bloggers in the early days.
So smart. So did a lot of this like just come as like second nature to you, or how did you even, because I feel like so many times we'll be speaking with filmmakers or photographers and they're like, I need to network. And I'm like, yeah, you do need to network. Get in the room. It's so important to get in the room and get that face to face. And they're like, okay, but where do I look? And so like, how did you kind of like have that like intuition that you needed to be like in the room? Did it come from your corporate background, or was it just like it just came to you naturally?
I would say it came to me naturally. I would just, so again, this was pre, gosh, this makes me feel really old, but it was pre Instagram.
Yeah.
Twitter was really the like first big thing. And so I would be very active on Twitter and see like, where is this person going who's a part of this blog? Or, someone posts an invite for a blogger meetup. So I would go show up, or this industry event, and I would email and ask for an invitation and then go, or email and ask like, hey, is this something I could come to? And that's how I would kind of get myself in the room. I'm oddly not a very pushy person. I'm not salesy. So I would just get in the room and make genuine friends and connections, not necessarily pushing my business. I'm not great at that and I don't like it. And
Me too.
so I would just try to make like genuine friendships. And then from that, things would come. Someone would be like, oh, you know what? In my um, online magazine that I'm working on, I want to do a little thing about, I don't know, how to style for a dinner party, or top outfits to wear to a wedding. Can you help? And then that's how those would like organically happen, because I had an initial connection with the person.
Yeah. This is so taking me all back because like I said, we started at the same time and I like totally sometimes think back to like, wow, Twitter was huge and it was so important to kind of be on Twitter and see where people were going to be and people
Mm-hmm.
like I don't even remember like mentioning like they were mentioning different people and like where
Right.
they would be. And so I think now if we look at how that looks now in 2024 where we're sitting, it just all kind of has to do with if you want to get to where you want to go, it really takes an awareness of like what is happening outside of your own craft networking wise. I don't know if that makes
Right.
sense, but I'm like Taylor and I love to say like you have to take off the blinders. So like for
Mm-hmm.
filmmakers, we get so like we get so focused on what's happening in our own little filmmaker world and then we forget to look outside of the industry as a whole and see like hey, like who's working with who and what are the new trends that are happening or just being on the forefront of all those things. And it sounds like you really were back in 2009, 2010, 2011. You just like had your hands in all different places and took your blinders off.
Yeah. And I think that's really what kind of got me to reach other people. And those were the people that like I wanted to do weddings for, because they were fashion forward or they were really into design, whether that be home or office or outside of the home. I think those were the people I wanted to reach. And so that's why I thought, I don't want to reach the people, um, who kind of just want like a cookie cutter wedding. I really want to
Yeah.
reach people that want to push the boundaries and try something new, especially back in 2009. It was like right when people were trying to make weddings unique to themselves and not just like, hey, we all show up in this hall and we have white linens and folding chairs and we have a wedding. It really was becoming, I want to make this wedding represent me as, a bride, and then my fiance as well, and like how we would mix the two and how we are as a couple and then how we are as individuals. And so finding the people that wanted that was hard at the time because it was not as prevalent. And
Right.
so that's how I found to reach those people.
So smart. I mean, you kind of already started to identify very early on who your ideal client was. And then you looked for, those opportunities to get in the room with those people and collaborate with them. So then it would turn into, a solid portfolio. As, from getting started, we're all kind of, you start off and we're doing kind of more of those mainstream weddings. We all have to put in our time doing those. And then you get to like kind of scale and scale and scale. Can you think back to events maybe in your first 3 to 5 years that kind of put you sort of on the map, or like what were those events in your mind that really changed things for you rather than just treating all events as, because I think for Paul and I, one of our things that we didn't do super well because we're kind of creatives who happen to have a business. We're not super business minded. And I feel like in the first 3 to 5 years, mistakes that we made was that we treated all the weddings that we did the same. Like they were all in the same playing field when they really weren't. We definitely like missed opportunities back in the day to like leverage certain events. So I'd love to hear from your perspective. Did you have that, mindset as far as you knew which ones were going to, like I said, put you on the map or propel your business to the next level?
Yeah, I think that took a little while, and more so that I didn't have, I wouldn't say the confidence, but kind of. Um, you're working so hard to build a business and you're always just wanting to do what the client wants you to do, which is great. I mean, I still do that, but I don't think I had the confidence to say, hey, we should do this. And it was hard to read which clients would be good to do that with for a while. I would say maybe a good like 5 years before I was like, this client wants to know my ideas.
Okay.
And then I would share them, and it's almost like they gave me the confidence, like, ooh, what should we do over here? Ooh, that sounds like such a good idea. That's awesome. What else can we do? And that's when I was like, oh, I should be doing that. Like, I'm not just a planner. I'm not just here to make sure the wedding happens, but that they actually really want my ideas and opinions. And I think that specific wedding really is where I developed a great relationship with the bride and groom for the first time, like an actual relationship with them, and really was able to pull from what they love and what felt like them, and almost then able to know, oh, they would love this. I'm going to give them this idea, or they would love these two ideas. And so I think it was getting that confidence in, oh, people aren't just hiring me to make sure that their wedding happens without things going wrong. They're hiring me because they value my opinion, they value my style, my ideas, and they trust it. And I think once you get that initial moment of these people trust me, then I mean, those are always the best weddings. I'll be really honest. In
Always.
15 years of doing it, the clients that put me and or vendors in a box, they're beautiful weddings. They happen, they're beautiful, but the ones that really put the trust in you and all the other vendors, those are the ones that break boundaries. Those are the ones that people look to for ideas. And those are the ones where every vendor is so highly invested and really feels like they can put their artistic mark on it. I think those are the ones that really are spectacular and in so many ways. So I would say that's kind of how it started, is just gaining the trust and then getting that confidence from that trust.
Yeah. I mean, it's the same thing for photographers and filmmakers. When you first start out, maybe your portfolio isn't as vast, or it's not as not vast, but curated. And then clients kind of don't really know maybe what your motive and style is. So they're trying to point you in certain directions. And that's where the Pinterest boards come in a lot of the time, or the really curated shot lists for photographers. And that's hard, as an artist and as a creative, and for you, stepping into this design role too, is you're oh man, I am really getting put in a box here. But when that full creative freedom is given to you, wow, that's when things really, really change, and you get to really serve the client in a whole new way. Okay, speaking to some creative freedom and just insane weddings, you did a wedding last year at Blackberry Farm that I felt kind of I don't know, broke the internet for a bit. And you did it with Jose, and you did it with Caleb. And it was if you guys don't know what we're talking about, you need to go to Erin's page, and there's this insane, it'll live rent free in my brain, this image of the ceremony. And we have hues of pink on one side and hues of blue on the other side. And it was just unlike anything that I feel the industry had seen just yet. Talk me through that wedding. Was that just the most insane wedding of your career, or have you done other ones that we just maybe haven't been able to see due to NDAs? But I felt I was dang, Erin, you have just really knocked this one out of the park.
Thank you. It was so much fun. Just talk about clients that give you trust. That's what happens. Yeah, we've done some other ones. Similar, and but they just can't be shown.
Yeah.
But what I will say is it was incredible to have so much freedom. And I mean, every board we came up with each night was supposed to be very different. It started on a Thursday with a welcome barbecue. And also what was really cool about it is, so we worked with Tulipina, Kiana from Tulipina. Yeah. She's incredible, a true artist. Every petal was in its perfect spot. And there were thousands and thousands and thousands of floral, but she takes such pride in her work, and her team is really incredible. And her and I worked really well together in pushing the boundaries, and her pushing me, and us really collaborating, but also each vendor really having their own space to be the artist in their medium. And so we worked together. I chose all of the tabletop and design elements, and then we shared it with each other, and she just went for it, and it was amazing. It was better than we envisioned. Maybe she envisioned it, but it was better than I envisioned. The client really let us go place. I mean, the ceremony was spectacular. The wedding was spectacular, but I would say the intimate rehearsal dinner had to be one of my favorite things I've ever done. It was in their wine cave, and we had snake plates, and it was really sexy, and dark and moody and these really cool floral arrangements. So, I mean, there were so many elements that were amazing. We transformed a room twice, 2 nights in a row for a very different look. Um, so working as a team and really just having the clients to trust. We also worked with Yonder, who came up with some really cool textural and unique menus and place cards, and just every night to have a totally different feel, which was such a treat for the guests. And the couple enjoyed the weekend so much. They were so hands off and in the moment. And I was like, this is what everyone should be like, because just enjoy it. You spend all that time planning. And I think that's what really made it so unique and such an amazing experience for their guests.
It's so cool to like hear your voice light up during all this, because like you can tell that like there is such a hand, in every single piece of the puzzle. And that really is the difference between, that mainstream market, even the lovely market. And a lot of us listening to this, we have our eyes set on the luxury market. And sometimes we don't quite know what that means to be and working alongside a team in that luxury market. But it is just such a whole different ball game in the level of detail of things. Like you talked about these really cool snake plates that I'm sure were just like really hand selected and things like that. And I think one of the things is that photographers, or especially filmmakers, they get hung up on the luxury market because they're like, there's no story there. The couple doesn't really value story as much. And I'm like, you guys, you're just looking at story with the wrong mindset, right? When you're
Right.
working in the mainstream market, the story is all reliant on the couple because that's all there is. But as you scale, the story starts to take shape in the form of the design and the, guest experiences now that can be included throughout the weekend and all of those things. Like, have you kind of found as a planner that the story of the weekend really shifts in that way?
Yeah, I think the story is not only told with the couple, but it's told through the designer or planner. So we were telling the story of the couple through everything that was selected. So the reason that for example, this wedding, the reason they chose Blackberry Farm is because the bride grew up going there every year for Christmas, and she wanted to share that experience with her guests. And so it all started with the venue. And then they actually had Los Lobos play at their welcome. There was like a private concert, and that's her dad's favorite band. And they always would sing it together. And so it was little bits like that that we wove through the entire weekend. And she loves style and fashion. And so the dresses were really hand selected with a stylist. And she loves flowers, like wants to be a florist. So that's why there was so many floral elements everywhere. And really just letting those things unfold throughout the weekend. The guests got to experience some of the things, the activities that you can do on the farm. So people were fly fishing and skeet shooting and whiskey tasting and lots of fun, immersive activities, which helps give that story. The groom went on a bike ride with a bunch of his friends in the mountains, which is something he loves to do. And so I think what is important as a filmmaker is that you find out what those details are before that help tell that story, so that way you can capture those things that happen and finish telling the story. So it's not just the couple being the story, but what are those elements that are being told through the wedding that you can capture that help tell the story in other ways besides just following the bride and groom.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, we did a wedding just a couple weeks ago up at Montage Healdsburg, and I had a like final call with the planner. She wanted to hop on the phone, so we hopped on the phone, and she made note that the way that the guests are going to find their seats are these boxes that have their name and table number on them. And then inside are two little crackers with caviar on top. And the reason for that was because the groom's mother had passed away and she loved caviar. And so it was like a nod to her. And she was like a part of that guest experience. And like, I was like, that's great. Like, what are some other areas that I can like that are incorporated within the design or the experience of the day that we can be sure to capture. Um, and if we weren't capturing those things or taking off our blinders and just following the bride and groom around all day long, which is very much how we captured like more weddings in the mainstream market. Cause like I said, that's all there was. There was no caviar getting handed out to
Yeah.
guests. um, but yeah, I think it's just all about stepping outside of what once served us and how we captured those events. And now, what are some ways that we can serve the client in a totally different way? And, for that, it was definitely getting that, getting a whole montage of guests getting, bites of caviar and finding their seats, because now we can weave that into their film and like the groom can feel like, his mom was a part of the film in that way too. So yeah, this is so, so good. I also wanted to ask you, now that you do 6 events a year, how did you get to a place over the course of 15 years where you felt like you could scale back and serve the client in that full capacity? Or like maybe when you were partial planning, I'm sure you were bringing on more events, because for Paul and I, we started off doing 30 events a year. Now we're really more comfortable at 10 events a year just because of the scale of the events. How did you find that balance over the years?
I think it kind of happened organically as we would book larger, more weddings that happened to have just more production, more to it. Um, I was always very aware that from the beginning, even when we were only doing partial planning or day of, I really wanted my clients to feel like they were the only couple I was doing weddings for. When I got married, I didn't care about anyone else. I only cared about my wedding and, what I was doing. And not to be selfish, but I feel like when you're getting married, you should feel that way because you don't know the other people that are working with these vendors, and you care only about your wedding. And so I really wanted them to always feel that way. And so, in order to make that happen, as we started doing larger productions, multi day weddings, it just came naturally that I obviously wouldn't schedule a wedding on the same weekend. And then, additionally, maybe not for 2 more weeks after, because we needed to have that time for the next client to get all of their stuff in a row. Additionally, I have a family
Yeah.
and they're really important to me. And I wanted to never be overworked or burnt out. I love spending time with them, and I wanted to ensure that we still had that. I really wanted to protect. That's kind of why I started in the beginning, was because I wanted to have the freedom to raise my kids, be with my kids and my husband, and not um, be working a 9 to 5 job. I wanted to drop them off at school. I wanted to pick them up from school. And so, in order to protect that, I also had to, the larger the productions got, the less I had to take. Because,
Yeah.
people say there's balance. I don't necessarily think it exists. There's just a way to like have one higher than the other at different times.
Oh my gosh, I completely agree. Oh man, it's so hard to find that work-life balance. Taylor and I get questions about it all the time, and I think it is kind of like one pulls you in one direction for a bit and then another pulls you in another direction for a bit, but you do need to kind of lay the groundwork there to where you don't get pulled away from your family 100% of the time, right?
Right.
We can like balance that a little bit
Right.
more.
And
Yeah.
that you're still serving your client in the way that they expect to. I mean, it's fake. There's no such thing as real balance. There's just like prioritizing certain things at certain times when needed.
I absolutely agree. Um, okay, so as you started to scale your business and now you're working with like these ultra luxury clients, what is it that you, just to kind of like paint a picture for our listeners that are primarily photographers and filmmakers, what is it that you're looking for in a photo and video team that makes you feel confident about referring them, and, really working alongside this level of clientele with you?
That's a great question. I think there's a couple of things, like if I'm being honest, there's a couple of things that I look for. One is obviously if I've worked with them before, their attitude, their ability to adapt in a day, and really, I mean, I'm going to be honest, all of our vendors have to have awesome personalities because we're all there for 17 hours and at least on a wedding day.
Yeah.
And it has to be fun. I
Yeah.
mean, we love what we do. Our team always has so much fun. Um, I don't, I believe that every vendor that is on site is there because of us. Even if it's somebody that a client chose on their own and I haven't worked with, they're still part of our team. And if anybody fails or falls short, it's a reflection on us. So we don't ever throw anyone under the bus. We do what we can to make every vendor shine and look amazing because in the end, we're the like general contractor
Yeah.
of the wedding, and the end result is everything that every vendor provides. And so someone who can work really great as a team, who's flexible, um, who reads my production deck prior and doesn't ask me the questions on the wedding day that were in it. Um, and and then when it comes down to it, it's, are they a good match for our client? Does our client want something more edgy, more editorial? Do they like the more romantic storytelling style? What our job is to connect the right vendor with the right client. And so if they're looking for a specific style, we won't refer somebody who isn't that style. But that's why we have quite a few different filmmakers and photographers on our list, is so we can connect those. Everyone has their own unique style. Some are more similar, so we would maybe refer three that are that same style. One thing we do is we do have our clients have a call with both photographers and the filmmakers on their own because they need to see what that connection is. Photographers and filmmakers are who, other than us, our client is going to spend the majority of their day with. And if they don't have a great connection or they feel uncomfortable, it shows and it comes across in the video and in the photos. And so we always have them have that call on their own, and then we discuss with them after, but that way they can see how they gel. And there's no offense, it's just some people gel better with others, and that's really the best way for us to connect our clients.
Yeah. I think that's so smart. And I know that not all planners like make for that, one-on-one call, or sometimes the clients are just like, oh, I feel like I trust you. I don't feel like I need to take a call with them or anything like that. But I love that you said that you are getting to know your clients and referring only people who you feel like would be a really good fit for them, style wise, and probably even personality wise, because you
Yeah.
get to work so one-on-one with them. So you kind of already know based on people that you've
Mm-hmm.
probably a prior or have worked with already. Um, or you're looking for someone, sourcing someone new with a different style. But I think that's like really big hang up for some photographers or filmmakers that they maybe don't get as much contact with the couple that they maybe
Hmm.
once had more in that mainstream market because there maybe isn't a full service planner there to kind of
Right.
support that whole relationship to be built upon the success of the event and
Hmm.
success and a successful end experience for the client. So I love that you said that because I think it'll really help put people at ease in knowing like, okay, I can let go a little bit. This planner
Hmm.
has the best interest of the client. They do have my best interest too. They want a seamless, great experience on the wedding day and beyond the wedding day. And so yeah, that's so cool that and I love too that you also kind of push for a one-on-one call with the client and the photo and video team because it is important that people gel together and it just makes for the best experience possible throughout the wedding weekend.
Yeah. And if our client, is somebody that's like, I don't really care, I don't need to be on the call, we do often, after they book, as it gets closer, at least have them have some sort of call just so they get how they work and how they talk. Though, even when we're referring, we do know which personalities, would go good. Does somebody want somebody lively and upbeat, or do they want someone a little more quiet who's just going to follow them? And so we do a lot of that ahead of time to know who's going to be the best fit for the client.
Yeah. And then one last question that I had, if you hadn't had a chance to work with that person, are you kind of basing off of like fellow planners that have worked with that person and they can vouch for them, or you can kind of ask, is it based on like the overall branding or the notoriety of that specific vendor? Like, because I know that some people might be listening here and be like, well, hey, like I really want to work with this planner, but I've just never been able to have the opportunity. How can I get them to see me as a great candidate if I haven't had a chance to work together yet? How can I kind of shine in a different area in order to get that referral, maybe?
That's a great question. And I kind of go back and forth on the answer. Um, I've had times when a photographer or a videographer will come to me and have coffee or a drink or lunch, which is great, because that's how I can kind of tell their personality and like how we would work well together or how they would work with a client. Only problem is we're just super busy. And sometimes
Yeah.
I get those
Yeah.
emails and I'm like, I don't have time. I would love to, but I
Yeah.
just don't have time. So I kind of go back and forth. I mean, obviously, reaching out to someone in peak wedding season isn't the best.
Yeah.
But then sometimes around the holidays when we're just onboarding clients, like that's not great either. So I think just continuing to reach out and maybe not being like annoying, but making it that you really do want to connect. And so not getting offended if they keep emailing you back and saying, sorry, this week isn't great. Sorry, this week isn't great.
Yeah.
But I do think that helps. And additionally, sharing your work, full wedding videos, not just like your top. And then additionally, I do reach out to other planner colleagues and ask about, hey, I've been following this filmmaker or photographer and I saw that you worked with them. What are your thoughts? And then also I'll reach out and ask for full galleries so that I see how they document either full galleries or full videos to see
Yeah.
how they document the day as well.
So, Erin, 2024, you've been doing it for 15 years. What do you kind of have your like goals in mind for the next 3 years, the next 5 years for your business? Um, you've done some really, really incredible, like you've reached some great milestones in your business. What are some other things that you kind of have on the horizon for yourself?
Oh, that's good. I'm such a goal setter. So to me, I'm never where I want to be. I'm always looking for further, but I would say the goal is to really have the clients that give that freedom. I think that's what brings me the most joy. Our team and myself, our passion is really serving these people, and the design, really coming up with unique, cool, interesting experiences and environments for our couples and their guests. And so I think having just continuing to have those clients that allow that creative freedom, that, and really, we love pushing the boundaries. We love coming up with new ways of doing things. And I think getting clients that allow us to do that, that's what's so fun for us.
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing better than having like a year set ahead for yourself where you know that you're excited for every single event and that every single one is, set up to be just like you hit it out of the park, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. I know for Paul and I, like, and for listeners too, like, it's so cool because you can start to take on less, right? But the quality is just so much better, right? And
Mm-hmm.
rather than having 30 events on your calendar year and you're maybe only excited for a quarter of them, think about having 6 on your calendar year, and that every single one is, has the potential to be a portfolio piece. And that's really
Yeah.
cool.
And when we cut down the amount we do, I found that I am able to focus even more on each and every tiny detail. Like, we're not just going to have a bar sign. What is this bar sign going to look like? What's the experience at that bar going to be? How are the guests going to feel when they walk up to it? I think all of those little details are what really tell that story for the clients as well.
Amazing. You are so good at what you do. We've loved seeing your business kind of scale as ours did over, I think in
Yeah.
2013 was our first year working together. So that was our
Yep.
third year in business. It was your fourth year in business. We were like
Mm-hmm.
still babies in the industry. And so it's so cool to see someone who's like rising and still in it, because there's so many people that just aren't in it
Yeah.
anymore that
It
started back when we did.
I know, it's kind of funny. I was thinking of that the other day. I have this like little sign. I had like a wedding industry baby shower when my son was born. He's 12 now. And it still hangs in his room, and a bunch of people had signed it. And I was looking at it the other night and I'm like, that person doesn't work in the industry anymore. That
Oh,
person doesn't. And I was like, it's kind of sad. I still love it. I still love every aspect of planning weddings. Yeah, it's difficult. It's not all rainbows and unicorns like everyone thinks. It's a lot of hard work and continuing to reinvent yourself. But
yeah.
I still have such a passion for every couple, every vendor we work with. So I think if you're losing that passion, think about scaling back. I definitely got to a place of burnout quite a few years ago. And that's really when I started scaling back the amount that we did, because I wanted to still be in the industry. I wanted to still love it and have that passion. I wanted to still be a joyful, smiling face on the wedding day. Um, and not be somebody who was jaded or upset or grouchy or angry. So I think it was important to definitely scale back.
Yeah. That's so good that you had that like wherewithal. Because I think that a lot of times you hit that burnout mark and you think like, okay, like this is it. Like this is just it for my business. I've kind of reached the top. And professionals, I think sometimes forget that, yeah, you can continue to reinvent yourself. You can continue to better yourself and your business and the practices within your business and the design in your business, and really change things up to where like we don't have to live in that like continual burnout forever and ever. Like that's no way
Yeah,
to live.
no. And if you don't like it anymore, I mean, it's definitely not the business to be in just to get a paycheck. You could do something much easier to do that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Erin, thank you so much for just taking this time with me. And I know that our listeners are really going to enjoy this one. For those who haven't had a chance to connect with you and see the beautiful events that you produce, where can they find you?
So you can find us on our website, which is bustleevents.com. Additionally, you can find us on Instagram at Bustle Events. Some TikTok. I'm too old for it, but I'm trying to figure it out. And that's really where we post. I would say Instagram's probably the most up to date. We also do actually update our website on a regular basis. We are going through a rebrand right now, so that will be updated eventually. But yeah, that's where you can find us. You can also email me. I'm an open book and I love connecting with people and talking to them. And my email is just Erin, Erin, at bustleevents.com.
Amazing. Well, thanks so much, Erin. And I look forward to seeing everything that you have ahead in 2024 and next year and the years beyond.
Thank you for joining us in today's conversation. Please help us reach more filmmakers and photographers like you by taking a screenshot and sharing it to social media. And don't forget to tag us at The Level Up Co.
And join us again next week, same time, same place, as we continue to level up the industry together.